when I release on the other thing. Hello and welcome to episode 153 of the Game Brew Podcast, the mostly bi-weekly video game podcast where we sip delicious bevs, discuss video games, and I rolled a natural 20 on writing the script the right way this week. It's the right number and everything. I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan. I'm Chris.
I am Kari.
Hi, Chris and Kari. Thank you for joining me. Or Pip. Whichever you prefer. And on this episode of the Game Brew Podcast, we asked the question, which game should I play if I really like Dungeons and Dragons?
You should play Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay, great. Cool. End of podcast. Boom. We've been knocking these out so fast. The most recent ones, you know? But first, before we talk about that, it is time for a bev. Folks, so what are we drinking if we are drinking things?
I'm drinking a from Brooklyn Brewery in Brooklyn, New York.
Ooh.
The Pulp Art. I was gonna say Tra, but that would be backwards. Pulp Art Hazy IPA.
Pulp Tra.
Pulp Tra. And it's, it's probably not my favorite hazy I've had. It's not very sweet.
Okay.
Which isn't a bad thing, that it's not sweet, but it just doesn't pack a lot of punch.
Okay.
But
it's a
pretty
IPA.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So, I'll hold it up. So you can see that it's kind of got a haziness to it. You can't see right through it. So they leave some of the stuff in there to make it so it has a little bit more, kind of of a warm color, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Also showing off a glass that I believe Kari made.
Yeah. Me too. I got the Kari glass too.
That was a shitty pour, dude.
Dude, it's not the pour, man. It's not the pour. It's the beer. I'll tell you about it in a second.
Anyways,
what
but
happened.
yeah, so hazy IPAs tend to have kind of a sweeter, juicier flavor to them. I also just ate a Cliff Bar, so maybe that's why it doesn't taste as sweet, because Cliff Bars are kind of sweet. But it's very high chuggability, especially because it's not sugary. For chuggability, so pretty high chuggability for an IPA for sure.
Nice. Does it give you would you say that it gives you proficiency in chugging if you were to drink it?
Yes, I would, Dan. We should have done this in initiative order.
Shoot, you know what? Yeah, you know what? Roll some D20s, guys.
I got a natural 20, so I'm glad I'm.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Let's see. I got a 19.
Oh, Dan, you were just saying that you had all these dice right next to you.
Oh,
I think they're all downstairs because that's where we play Dungeons and Dragons now.
Does not. He just said, doesn't everybody have?
No, you know what?
Dice?
I'm the dungeon master. I don't have to have dice. I make it up. Listen, I'm just making it up as I go along.
Well, we rolled a 20 and a 19.
Okay, so I would be lower than that. Wait, what do you add to your initiative?
I'll say I'm a pretty big guy and not the most dexterous, so I'm going to give myself a -1 there. So 19. It's a dumb stat for me for sure.
Kari, do you have a beverage you're imbibing this week?
Well, I am imbibing an old witch's brew known as coffee.
Coffee. That's a very important witch's brew.
Really
especially if you're an old witch like me, you gotta have
also
coffee.
Because it turns liquid alchemy-like into energy. So
feel the energy. All my stamina is going up now.
Nice. I'm drinking, trying to pour very unsuccessfully because I don't know why. It's doing this to me, but it's a Belgian style blonde ale by Omegang Brewing Company. Omegang Brewing Company, and it's called Gnomegang. It's got gnomes on it.
Oh my god. I know someone who would love.
So, what kind of beer was it? What type of?
It's a Belgian style blonde ale.
Why do you keep saying air?
Is it just a can of air?
It's just air. Because there's so much foam on the top.
Yeah. See, that's
cool.
That's why the pour was.
Oh, the mischievous gnomes of Belgian farmstead Brasserie Dashouf are at it once. Dashouf are at it once
That's true.
again. They dropped by brewery Omegang and left behind a present of Shoof yeast for our brewing team here in Cooperstown, New York. Combining their yeast in the primary fermentation, along with our recipe, our brewing techniques, and our yeast in the can conditioning, yields a unique, flavorful, and aromatic dose of magic. Magic.
Beautiful.
I don't know what do you guys think of the game Scum? Is what Nightmare 6_9.
Scum. I haven't played Scum.
So the brewery that you were just saying, Brasserie de Chouf, was who I was thinking. They have a beer called Le Chouf.
Okay.
And it has like they have a like a little gnome guy. I used to have a little gnome hat that was like his hat, but I was wondering if that if they were like kind of trying to do an homage to them, but apparently they're just getting their yeast.
Yeah, they just got some yeast.
I mean, gnomes are just a thing.
But it tastes like a Belgian. It tastes like a proper Belgian though. You know? Like it's whenever we went to Germany and Austria, and like some of the beers that were over there, and like a lot of the ones that you get during Oktoberfest.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes a beer taste Belgian? Like what is a unique identifier?
So there's a couple different Belgian styles, primarily being like the double and the triple.
Yeah.
That have kind of like a very characteristic sweetness to them, and like kind of very like very malty and very sweet and very I don't know. Like they're very high gravity, so like a lot of alcohol in them.
Yeah, it's 9.5% ABV.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're like very like they're usually very good beers if you're really into them. Like what is that? A saison. It's kind of like saisons too.
Yeah. It's a little bit lower on the hop, like the hop count, like so it doesn't taste as hoppy.
Like an IPA would.
Yeah. It can be a little bit sugarier. This is a blonde ale. So it's like a lighter sweetness and less bitter than a lot of other Belgians would be.
Yeah, and Omegang is like an American company that does a lot of these kind of style Trappist beers. So a Trappist beer is basically one that is made by Trappist monks. So monks that make beer and cheese, basically.
The best kind of monks.
So and the
party at their place,
right? It's awesome.
That's all they would do is get fry.
Can't have sex, but I get beer and cheese. So like,
I mean, that's why they had to, because I can't do anything else.
But yeah, so it's kind of like a stronger version of like a brown ale.
Yeah, and it's good. It's light. I mean, it's quite chuggable. Like,
you said it was a blonde, yeah.
Yeah,
it's the chuggability on it.
I would say medium to high. You know, because so it's like
it's not a sipper; it's a chugger.
It should be a sipper.
Oh, okay.
But it's dangerous. It's a dangerous like mouthful of beer. Like you could drink it. I could drink this pretty fast. If it's colder, I would drink it faster. I got it this afternoon, so it's not like at peak temperature of coldness. So this is probably how you're supposed to drink it, actually. So, yo, what up, Frog? To Rob, who comes in. Hi there. Nightmare. No, I don't think any of us have played Scum, but we'll look it up.
I didn't play it, but I remember at PAX East. I think it was 2020 or it was 2019. Because Bob was there. I went with Bob and our friend Ian Strickler. And that was one of like the big games there. They had like this whole, like, it looked like a prison, and like I had a ton of attention, but yeah, like a lot of people were playing Scum at that time. Or like that was one of the big games.
Yeah, because it's like an open world survival.
Yeah, and
game.
I think I think the idea is that all the people are prisoners.
Yeah, escaped prisoners.
Yeah,
trying to get out.
Yeah.
How's my mullet? It's fine. It doesn't exist. Rob, sorry. But yeah, that's how much we've gotten into our beverage part. Now we're going to talk about some games that we've been playing. We're going to save the one game that we've all been playing just until the end because we know.
Okay.
I am going to talk.
To be clear, that's all I've been playing.
I know. That's why I just wanted to preface it. There's a game everyone's playing. We know. We're going to talk about it. But the first I want to talk about, I was on vacation last week. That's why this is happening now and not last week. I was in South Carolina visiting my brother and sister-in-law, and they introduced me to a game called Wingspan. It's a board game. It's very fun. You basically are collecting birds. You collect birds into like a little nature habitat, and then you try and get the most points for your birds. And it was very nice. And
that
also
sounds pleasant.
It's pleasant. And also there's an app you can get so that whenever you can hold it over the card. There's like all these different cards with birds on them. And you can hold it over the card and it'll make the noise that the bird makes.
Oh, that's
so you can
cool.
like hear the bird call.
That's awesome.
It's really cool. My brother is super into bird watching because there's like a bird sanctuary down there, and also there's so many different birds where they live. So he kind of was like, it's like, oh yeah, that's that. And he was like, this is that. He's like, oh, we saw a roseate spoonbill while we were down there, which was pretty cool.
So were you doing the bird calls? Were you at least?
No, I don't know how to do them, but I
missed opportunity.
I'm sorry. I could do my best. I'm good at impressions, but not bird calls.
I mean, that's all a bird call is.
It's just it's a bird impression. This is my impression of this is my impression
Big Bird.
of a redheaded there's like this one duck that sounds like a squeaky toy. It was just like is what it sounded like. That's probably about as close as I could make the noise to. And I couldn't see it, but it was there. So I just kept hearing I was like, where the freak is this thing? But no, Wingspan, it's good. It's one of those games that's like $50, but it is very well made. All the art's really cool. All the stuff is really cool that you get to use with it. So yeah, highly recommend. Go get that bird game.
I wonder if you can play it on Tabletop Simulator.
Tabletop Simulator? I'm sure you can.
There is a Steam version of it. Like there's like a digital game version of it you can play too, which is also cool. So I'm going to look that up. I'm sure you can play it on Tabletop Simulator.
So I lied. I have been playing something for since we're talking about tabletop games.
Always.
So there's a game that when I was at PAX Unplugged, one of my friends bought for another set of my friends.
Gotcha.
And it's called Drunk Quest.
And, I saw that.
So Drunk Quest is no longer available to buy, and it's extremely expensive to buy in the aftermarket.
Oh, really? Oh,
it's like you have to pay like $250. At least that's the last thing I heard. But
yeah,
Drunk Quest is basically Munchkin, but with like drinking.
With drinking, I think I remember seeing that, and
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It like I think we played it for an hour, and I'm pretty sure I finished 5 beers.
Holy moly!
It was a lot, but it's a lot of fun. So basically, like the premise is there's a monster. You're set to fight that monster. You can do an action or like one of your character's abilities, or draw a card basically as your action, and then it goes around the circle. People can like either put more drinks, like if they have a card to make you drink more drinks to defeat this monster, they can do that. They can try to steal the monster. Because every time
so I see why they canceled this game.
That makes sense.
You get a level up for each monster that you kill. But sometimes you can add a card to make it so you get 2 levels up, or someone might add a card that makes it 0 levels up, and you get treasures for defeating the monster, just the same as Munchkin.
I think
honestly,
anybody
it was probably
who plays,
because it was too close to Munchkin.
Yeah.
I think anybody who plays it may not remember how fun it was.
Yeah, no, we went through a lot of beer playing that game.
Oh my god!
But yeah, it's a ton of fun. Like if you have the right group for it, because it just there's a lot of like strategery and shenanigans. But also you're just and like it'll say like you have to defeat this monster by drinking 10 sips, or
Oh my God.
I think the worst was someone was trying to make me drink a whole lot, and I had a card at the end that was an instant card. That made it so someone else had to drink all of my drinks.
Oh no! And you did it right back to him.
I did it to Grant.
Suck it, Grant. Suck it.
But it was pretty great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Anybody throw up?
No.
We're
professional drinkers.
We're professionals. Listen, we've been doing this for 6.5 years. We're professionals.
Yes, we're only 27, and it was 6.5 years.
Oh my God. Wait. Anyway, Kari, any fun games aside from the big one that we're going to talk about?
Actually, another game that just recently launched was Palia. And so I've been playing Palia with Allison.
Right.
So it is a life sim type game. You go out and gather resources for like building your house, decorating your house. You are in a server with other people, and you can run around and catch bugs, Pokemon style, or you can hunt deer and these other little critters. And so then you take it back to your house, which is in kind of an instanced area, and you can grow your plot by buying more little deeds for your property. And just add on to your house, make your house bigger, and build furniture for it, and different crafting stations. And one of the cool things about this game is that really, for the first time ever, I've never played a game that has encouraged
drinking,
working together, drinking, no. Not that. Working together with other people as much as this has.
Interesting. Okay.
Because
I'm sorry, I had to let Lilo. What was the name of this game?
Palia.
Palia.
It's what Allison posted in the Discord.
Okay.
It's an open beta right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, open beta.
Yeah.
So one of the cool things about it is when you need an item, you can request it. You can put out a little request that says, I need this item. And there's this social window where you can see people that need the requests, like your friends or your community / guild, or just other people on the server. And you can fulfill those requests for people. And you actually get these renown points, which help you level up certain things in the game. Oh. And then, if you have a request, you can put, something out there that you are having a hard time getting. Or say, like, you don't like fishing. So fishing is not your thing, but you need fish for a particular recipe.
But I love
fish. You can request fish because maybe somebody's really big into fishing.
Give me fish. Makes sense.
And then some of the mini games are neat, like cooking. You build up your cooking stations so you can add different things to it, like a stove and an oven and a prep station. And then when you start cooking, it's a mini game. So you go to the first station, pick your recipe, and then you have to go to the chopping station to chop your vegetables, and you have to do it timed.
Like
and
Cooking
then
Mama style.
Right. Roll your dough or your noodles or whatever. And then you go back to the cooking pot, put your ingredients in and stir it. And then it gets a good rating, like how well you did. You either get a good star on it or you just get a regular.
Yeah. It's not like Breath of the Wild where it's just you put the things in a pot.
Set it and forget it. No,
yeah,
it's not
gumbo in a pot. That's some WAP.
But that's where it encourages working together. Cause like, say you're not good at doing the chop.
Chef.
You can have one of your friends
come
in and use a cooking game together. They can do the chop. You can do the roll.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very interesting. I'm a big fan of making, not quick time events, but mini games, like turning things into mini games that are just mundane tasks or like locks or whatever.
I am, and I'm not. At a certain point, it can become tedious. So like even to the point of like in Zelda when you were cooking and it did the little song.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to cook a lot of shit. Don't make me listen to that song over and over.
I don't want to hear... Yeah, I do wish that was a little faster. But there's also things like that where it's like oh, to cook something you have to do this thing. The fishing mini game from uh uh Stardew Valley I really enjoyed because
Okay.
it was like harder. If you played Atomic Heart at all, the locks in Atomic Heart, it's almost like they're not all different, but there are like different categories of lock that you might have to undo. That's like a different puzzle to undo it, which is kind of interesting. That's the kind of stuff where I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like that variety.
Yeah, and I think it also just really depends on like, do you need to do a million of this activity, or are you only going to do like with Stardew Valley? Like, it's not like you're just doing that during the day. Whereas like sometimes you can spend a really long time just doing something that's really tedious. So I think that also
true.
I actually started playing Sunhaven, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
Just like Stardew Valley, but I actually like it a lot more.
Really?
But it's got a really good story. It's not like your day isn't based off of stamina. You can do as much as you want.
Okay.
And you just have to be in bed by midnight. That's it. But I like it a lot more. I liked it a lot more so far I'm liking it. And I like the multiplayer part of it. And
I still feel like all games where you have to get sleep should have an insomniac mode where it's like you get where you might not go to bed before 2:30 in the morning, but you'll still function normally, like me, because that's what I do. And
I mean, it penalizes us night owls. I'm a night owl. What if I like the nighttime?
Exactly. We need it.
The nighttime's the right time.
We need it. But would you recommend Palia for people to play?
Would I recommend it?
Yeah.
If you like those kinds of games. If you're somebody who needs a challenge, like what was the last game that I was playing that was like this? It was very like people keep comparing it to Animal Crossing. So if you like Animal Crossing type games, you would like it. It's very relaxing to play. It's a nice little like just kind of get out,
Yeah, got it. It's like you don't have to think too hard to do it.
But if you need a challenge, you're going to get bored with it really quickly.
I did start it up.
It's more of a chill game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I did start it up, and I did make a character. And I know the first thing I noticed whenever it came in is I was like, the assets kind of look the same as the Disney Dreamlight Valley game that came out a while ago.
Somewhat, yeah.
Just because, I don't know, it was something about I was just like, this seems familiar. Maybe somebody reused some assets that were in the public domain. But who knows? Who's to say? I play the tuba. I don't really know that much about it. But you know what? It's okay. I'm trying to be better. I am Knuff. I'm just Ken. I'm just Dan.
It was incredible.
It was so good. I saw it last night. I cried so much.
This is not a movie.
This is not a movie podcast. But go see the Barbie movie. I will say though, not a movie podcast. I will say we went to go see it yesterday. There were more people in like that regular movie theater, like since that came out like 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah.
There was still. It was almost a packed theater for that movie. It's like wild. I'm like, wow, this movie is definitely going to keep making money. But anyway, this is a beer and video games podcast. We all have been playing the same video game.
You want to?
We're going to transition right now. We're going to transition.
The Tarrasque in the room.
Yeah, there's a Tarrasque in the corner. We got to acknowledge it. Also, where'd the corner go? So Baldur's Gate 3 came out 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago? Last week? 2 weeks ago?
It was August 3rd, I think.
2 years ago.
So
3 years ago.
10 days ago, Baldur's Gate 3 came out. And immediately, the internet, everybody has been talking about it. Like, they fell in love with it. They love all the things that you can do with it. Starting with the fact that you can choose your sexual organs whenever you start out. Whether whatever they look like, whatever they have. You can also choose to not have any, which is also good.
Oh, you can choose to not have any. You can Barbie it up.
I think there's a none option if I remember correctly. But the
NUN option, right? Is that
yes, but and then like the variety of just a great game. So Baldur's Gate 3 came out. Chris, tell us since we start with you. Tell us about Baldur's Gate 3. What is Baldur's Gate 3?
Baldur's Gate 3 is made by a studio called Larian. Larian Studios. They're also known for making the series of games Divinity. So Divinity Original Sin and Original Sin 2 that they came out with, I think were the last two games before this. So Baldur's Gate 3 is the, I guess, the third in the series of Baldur's Gate games. I don't think it has anything really related. It might take some of the lore stuff from those games, but that's about it.
I think it's the same sort of style of RPG also.
Oh yeah, it's very similar. The controls and being able to select your multiplayer, how you distribute the characters. It's exactly like Original Sin 2.
Yeah. But what about Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 though? Did you play either of those?
I did, but I don't remember them.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember playing a lot of Dark Alliance, but that was more of like an
different.
ARPG.
Right, that's a different thing. That's whatever I thought, like whenever I saw this game first coming out, I was like, oh, like Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance and Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2, but it's
which were good, but not the same.
Not the same.
Yeah, so I haven't played those, or at least not in a long time. But so these are these series of games are set in the world of Faerun, which is like kind of the main D&D
world,
the Sword Coast. The most recent movie was set in it as well. Neverwinter's a city in Faerun, as is Baldur's Gate. Yeah, so basically you create your person, you create another person that's supposed to be like your something. It's a mystery. I haven't gotten there yet.
I was like I made this other person. Where are they? We'll get there. I'm sure they're in Baldur's Gate somewhere. I just doing the classic RPG thing. Not
well, and the game starts out with the classic RPG thing of like you're in a weird situation, and it's basically the same start as Divinity Original Sin 2. You're on a ship, it crashes. Which is
nice.
Exactly what happens.
Yeah. Also, no spoilers, everybody.
That's not really. That's
not
the
first thing that happens.
I mean, I had
it's not even really
major deja vu. Yes, major deja vu from that. I was like, this feels like a game I've played before. Oh yeah. Divinity.
It's basically the same start. And then you can kind of create your party with some other characters that you meet along the way. There's basically a representation of pretty much every class that you can get eventually. But it's very much like you're playing a video game version of D&D. You're rolling checks for all of these different options in like talking to other NPCs, and it can be based on the skills that you kind of choose at the beginning. You can be assisted by people using guidance, which is a spell in D&D that can increase your skill rolls. The combat is very similar. They don't have the actual roll happening in the middle, which I think was a good choice, so it doesn't like kind of slow that down.
Right.
But it is happening in the background. Yeah. Trying to think what else. Like it's the best representation I think so far that I've seen of D&D in a video game, in that like there's so many different options and ways to do things, so you can really be creative about it. Obviously not as creative as you can be from a tabletop perspective.
Right. It's not perfect, but
right. Well, I mean, if we ever get to that point, it's going to be incredible.
That'd be wild.
Maybe AI, who knows?
Yeah. But I do want to ask, because I too am playing Baldur's Gate 3. So is Kari. And we are all also Dungeons and Dragons players. So if you are here and you don't know what Dungeons and Dragons is a tabletop role-playing game in which you embark on adventures created by a dungeon master. It's like me, forever DM Dan Rons.
Sometimes me.
Sometimes Chris. Kari?
Oh yeah.
DM? Well, no, you DM?
Are you a DM?
I have. Well, not right now, but when I was younger, I did.
Nice.
Yeah, this one called Tales from the Floating Vagabond.
Ooh.
And one of their like campaigns was called Bar Wars. It was a comedy-based D&D space campaign.
Hell
and
yeah.
it was hilarious, and I wish I still had those books because they were really good. But
they're somewhere.
Yeah.
They've been lost to the ages.
I did find them online, but it's just not the same because like the cover arts and all that.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah. So they're in someone's basement somewhere, waiting for someone to go in, inspect the drawer, and look through all the old dusty books and be like, "Oh, let me pull this one out," and then they hit the
you
right
guys
click
would
on it.
love it.
They read it.
The campaign always starts at this bar, the space bar in the galaxy, and you have to get your characters as drunk as possible and go out on these little missions.
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah!
Yeah, they
Sounds
had
like Drunk
this
Quest.
special drink that you could drink, and it would like randomly do things to your character. Like you would randomly have a tentacle for the campaign, or just silly goofy stuff.
Fun.
And they had these like shticks, and so that's how they were for like your classes. You had these shticks. Like one of them was like an Errol Flynn shtick. So every time you entered somewhere, you had to make a big grand entrance.
Yeah,
and do like like I'm here, da da da, kind of thing.
Slice the rope, see if it's the one that goes to the chandelier. Instead, it's the one that doesn't do anything.
It was hilarious. It was a really fun game.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what classes did you pick to start out, Chris? What class did you pick? Or I'm your character.
So I bought this game a couple days before it actually came out. It was still in early access,
right?
And I did a dwarf barbarian,
of course, as is tradition.
And then we're all surprised.
Yeah, and then you're supposed to delete you're supposed to delete your save before you like re-downloaded it. So I did all that, and did a half elf paladin, Oath of Vengeance.
Shut up, dude.
Is that what you did?
Shut up. Well, I'm a half drow Oath of Vengeance paladin.
Okay, mine's half like high elf.
Oh, well,
so okay. Close. So close.
Right. Okay. But he is really cool because he's like people have already been super racist towards me, and I'm like, hey,
as you do with the drow.
And I'm like, hey, F right off, but also whatever. Would you have a dispute? I'll settle it. I'm Oath of the Vengeance paladin. So
it's funny that's like dark elves automatically have like because that's the same thing in I guess in Sky or in Elder Scrolls they're
like the bad. They're like
the dark elves are the racist ones. Like
the
that's true. Morrowind.
Yeah, but instead it's the opposite in this.
Yeah.
Where it's like, Kari, what about you?
Well, so when I started playing, I brought some people in to play with me, multiplayer, my husband and a friend of ours, and we kind of just wanted to jump straight in because they hadn't ever played this before. And I actually originally bought this game like when it first came out on early access, like 2020, I think. And I forgot I even had the game.
You were saying that before we actually started the podcast. You were like, this seems really familiar.
Yeah.
Whenever you were playing it.
Yes.
It's oh yeah, I bought this already.
I had already bought the game. I bought it to play with my brother because we had played Divinity Original Sin together, and so we were looking for another game like that. And when this one came out, we were excited, but it was so buggy. It was so buggy, and
I was having some issues, even like the early access right before it came out.
Yeah, we couldn't do it, and so we put it down and honestly just forgot I even had it until the buzz started again. So anyhow, to your question, what did I do? We just picked the main characters that are part of the storyline. So
cool.
I picked the main fighter, the
Lae'zel?
Lae'zel,
the Githyanki.
The Githyanki. See, I hadn't ever heard of that before. My husband's like, "Oh, a Githyanki." I'm like, "What?"
I've never heard of that. I don't think it's a thing in D&D, is it?
Yes,
or
it
is it
is.
just a Baldur's Gate thing?
No, it's a thing in D&D. The Githyanki are part of the astral plane. So like they're like the space things.
Okay.
There's the Githyanki and the Githzerai.
So are they part of like the Spelljammers stuff?
No, they're actually it's like they've been around for a really long time. It's just that they just travel the astral plane. So they're not typically part of like main canon. So it's like weird because you don't encounter them very often in like high fantasy D&D stuff just because they're out they're like in space. Like it's always been that way. They're like the space aliens sort of classes
well,
and like things.
Their little story interested me. Their little story
Interested me.
What if it's a little nice story?
This story is so nice.
They're a mighty dragon rider. They were
What?
mighty dragon riders, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's me because I'm typically
you're a mighty dragon rider.
Yes, I always pick the fighter, barbarian, beat 'em up, rough 'em up. As mighty as I can be type characters. So I picked her, but the tiefling was interesting too.
I had such a hard time, and I understand
the tiefling is the warlock.
No, she's a barbarian. She's another fighter type thing.
Yeah.
Okay. The warlock is Will.
Yes.
There's Will the warlock. There's also Gale the sorcerer.
Gale is pretty No, he's a wizard.
He's a wizard, excuse me. There's so many things. There's so many different classes in D&D. There's so many different things, and that's kind of what this game really gets right, is that you don't have, like, nothing is exactly the same. Like, Chris's paladin he's playing is probably different from the paladin that I'm playing, because there's just so many different things to go down.
Oh, man. Yeah, they really did. Like, you can customize your characters, just like in D&D.
It took so long. It took so long. I couldn't decide on anything.
Allison is probably going to take a whole day just to design her character because she's like that with character creation.
There's, because I remember I was really like, do I want to do? I was like, I don't want to just be a human fighter, dude. Because I was kind of like, I want to do the D&D, like the broken D&D thing, which we always make this joke is that human fighter is like the best class in D&D, just because it's the most balanced. You get the most, versatile. You could do the most damage. It's the most versatile of anything. So you can do all that stuff. And I almost did that. And then I was like, no, I want to give myself some stakes. So that's why I chose a paladin, because with a paladin, you have to, you have tenets. You have to do it. And one of the tenets my paladin has apparently is rolling really low on everything. So I've failed like so many skill checks on everything. I didn't think it was going to be a hard game because I play D&D all the time. And whenever I started playing it, I just kept dying. And I kept like, I think my characters have like almost died probably 10 or 15 times now, because I'm just
because you know how to play D&D.
Doesn't mean I'm good at it. Listen, I'm a dungeon master. I'm not used to doing this side of D&D. This is hard. God damn it.
I have to say, speaking of character customizations, I was looking through the Game Brew threads, the pictures, and Commander Nick Fury's character, Karen's manager destroyer.
That's
what
true.
was it?
I don't remember. I can't change it because
Karen's manager's bane.
Yes,
is what it was.
Because
amazing.
What did he say? He like agreed that whenever they started playing it, they would just do random, and that was whatever they would do, and that's so good. That's the most D&D thing I've ever heard. Where it's like, awesome. I'm just gonna let the dice decide, and then that's what happens.
Yep, just rolling with it.
But
when I make a character, I want it to be goofy now, because it was just, I fell in love with that. It was amazing. No.
I made mine too broody. That was the only problem. I was like, oh no, he looks too broody, and like
it's a drow. It's always gonna look broody.
Whoa, racist. In Faerun. Listen, I chose.
If I was in Faerun, sure, but
I'm not. So we all love D&D. We all love to play video games, right?
Yeah.
No.
So, well, okay. All right. Well, you know what? It's just, it's over. We're leaving, everybody.
All right. Been nice. Been nice.
All right, so we're gonna make a couple lists. Like the first list is we're gonna think what are some things that you guys like about D&D, like Dungeons and Dragons. What do you like about it? What makes you go ooh D&D? And if you're in the chat and you play Dungeons and Dragons and you want to give us a thing that like, please type in the chat if you love D&D. What's like the one thing, or pick one thing that you love about D&D to type into the chat just to be like, I love this thing the
Do
most.
I have to only pick one thing?
Start with one thing and then
okay.
Dice.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Rolling fat wads of die.
Yeah, I mean, just I don't care if I'm playing or not. Just it's ASMR of it is just so nice.
Yeah.
That I'm running a campaign with mostly newbies, and most of them are using D&D Beyond, which is fine, and it does make the dice rolling easier.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, but it's still pretty cool. I do like the physical feeling of dice, though.
Yeah, I only use like online dice if I'm rolling something that has like if I have something that's going to be 12d6 damage or something dumb like that. I don't have. Sorry, I do have the d6 for that.
I was going to say, so a lightning bolt, you mean?
So,
like
or like something bolt? Like it's like 10d8. Let's say that.
Yeah, all right.
I don't have 10 d8s right next to me, unfortunately, and I don't want to just keep rolling.
I do in the other room.
Yeah,
but I've got so many dice.
So I usually do that on the.
I don't want to do maths. That's why I let it.
Also, that.
Let it do it.
I'm here for the dice, but not the maths.
Not the maths. I do love maths. I do love it.
We play on Roll20.net.
Yeah, that also has.
Roll20 is great.
It makes it easy to just click the save button. Okay, just you figure out what it rolls for me. I'll click this. It's so satisfying because you're still it's like gambling.
It is like gambling. Ugh, don't say that. It's so what else do we like about D&D?
I really like I like the imagination part of it, being able to see in my head the situation, or like if I'm put in a situation and if we get the so how do you want to do it kind of thing, just imagining what that would be like with my character and putting myself in that character's shoes and really kind of being there is one of my
choose your own adventure
things. That but also just it can be very if you get really into it, it can be very real.
It's very very I almost equate it to being therapeutic in that it's you get to be someone else for a little while. I also refer to it as anytime I talk to people, it's oh, you play D&D? It's yeah, it's basically me and my adult friends sit around and play pretend for play pretend for 4 hours.
Guided
pretend times. Which
I
is
love
also
how people try to dumb it down into something silly, but it's
I mean, it is though, but it is silly. But that's the best part about it as being a game is it could be serious. We could be playing, Critical Role, where it's they do it every week, and it's this really serious story, and there's a lot of heavy stuff that goes on in it, or
be like Dimension 20,
or it could be like Dimension 20, where it's what if Game of Thrones was candy?
Yeah, but they do get into some really specifically that one. They get into some really serious stuff, and I think there's a place for both, and there can be a good balance of. And I tend to lean more towards the D20 style of just off the walls ridiculousness most of the time.
Side note: did finish on the train ride down to South Carolina. Dungeon Crawler Carl and the Eye of the Bedlam Bride.
I finished reading it.
So good.
So good.
Cannot wait. It's God, Matt Dinniman is such a good writer. If I could ever have him on the podcast, I would.
I bet he would.
If we asked him enough. If we actually asked him, we probably would. But yeah, and that's a personal recommendation from Chris and I. If you haven't read Dungeon Crawler Carl, go read it. It's so
and then tell us how right we were.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
It's on my audiobooks.
Apparently the audiobook is really good too.
It is very good.
Yeah.
The voice
I like the narration. Yeah, it's good.
So that's a recommendation from Kari as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
yeah,
nice. That's 3 out of 3, everybody. That means
if you like video games, and I mean, it gave me a very Hitchhiker's Guide vibe in the beginning.
It does give you that, and then it gets into like as you get further in, then it's like more like deep state sci-fi, which is cool, but also like you got to pay attention. You do have to pay attention, but you don't have to pay attention, which is also good about it. He holds your hand through it, which is also so. Matt Dinneman, tiny claps for you, tiny claps, because way to go, it's really good. Like so much of that's just like I want it to be done. I want the next book to be done now.
Oh, so badly.
I want to just keep reading. Okay.
This is not a book podcast.
It's not a book podcast or a movie podcast. What else do we like about D&D?
Well, I mean, along the same lines of what Chris was saying, definitely the choose your own adventure aspect of it. Being able to make choices and not be on rails.
Right.
So I guess in terms of video game and D&D, I like that, that kind of aspect to it.
Yeah.
Not so much when you're just forced to go in the main line of the story.
All right. And so I put in for my thing that I like that it can be anything, like Dungeons and Dragons. You don't even have to have any dragons or dungeons in Dungeons and Dragons, It could be anything you want it to be.
Blasphemy.
It could be in space.
It could be in space. It could be in a video game. It could be in the real world. It could one of my favorite podcasts that I've been listening to for years is called Hello from the Magic Tavern. And that podcast is an improvisational fantasy podcast where they're in a fantasy world. So in the fantasy world, they don't play Dungeons and Dragons. They play offices and bosses, which is different. So they play real people who work in an office whenever they play offices and bosses.
That's hilarious.
So I do like that it can be anything and you can kind of do anything. And it's just up to you and your DM, of course, to be, whatever you want it to be. Anything else?
Character creation. In D&D, finding your background and just developing your story around your character, just who they were, and then just getting into that character, getting into that role and just really feeling like them. Like you were saying, you take you get out of yourself for a little while and get to play somebody else.
Yeah, you take the good, you take the bad, you take the in-between, the facts of life.
Facts of life. The facts of life.
So anything else? Anything that's like the highest of levels that you think would be important?
Just like getting into, and this is kind of on the same lines in a way, like just getting into situations that you can never be in yourself in the real world, really.
Right. Okay.
And like there being consequences, but still not being real consequences. So you can really do and really like experiment and like try shit.
I'm gonna put that under imagination. I'm gonna put a little subheader that says imagination. I was gonna say escapism, where it's you kind of get out of your own personal bubble.
Your bubby.
My
and playing with friends. I think that's the other big one. That's one of the biggest one. Because you can really riff off each other and riff off each other's characters. And it changes much to the pain of the DM sometimes, changes where their story was meant to go just because, the players decide to be goofy and tickle the dragon instead of kill it,
Usually it's not tickling the dragon is what we're worried about. I will have to say
it's
the tickling is
the dragon tickling you.
I wasn't.
So
starting a knitting club with the dragon. There you go.
Yes, a knitting club. So these are the things we like the most about Dungeons and Dragons. Are there any games that are out there that meet these criteria?
So I will say that there's basically like two sets of games. There's games that use the rule set of D&D as it is, and try to do like essentially exactly like a digital format of that game. And then there are games that you can play like D&D, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, and we're gonna avoid doing let's avoid ones that are like this is D&D on a computer. Like avoid that. So like if it's like Roll20, that's just D&D on a computer.
Oh no, I didn't mean that. Like I meant like Baldur's Gate 3 is like that.
Well, but there are some things that you can't get with Baldur's Gate 3.
And so that's the reason why it stops at level 12. Is because after that, there's a lot of real fuckery with some of the spells you can do, like Wish. There's no way to make Wish work in this game.
Right, because you could be whatever.
You can't do it.
And for those for the uninitiated, the Wish spell basically means you get one wish. You could cast it, and
you can wish for literally anything.
Literally anything to happen. I think in my
divine intervention. How does that work?
My brother said in a campaign he was playing in, one of their characters got a wish. And they used it to wish that, like, their backstory was, their mother had died and they were going out to avenge their mother's death, right? It's very The Flash. It's very much The Flash. But then they used their wish to wish that had never happened. So what happened was that never happened. So that person never went on their adventure. So their entire history changed because that person had never been with them. So anything that had been done, that person hadn't done before. So that would be insanely difficult to put into a video game. To be like, all that stuff you did, guess what? Didn't do it. Yeah. It's all gone. Meet Merc.
Yeah. But where I was going to be going with that was that I was going to start with a game that is not like D&D based, that you can play like D&D, which is Skyrim or Oblivion. Like you can kind of create your character how you want it to be. You can play your character like you don't have to be like Dan in Skyrim. You can be like, you can create your own character. Like one time I made a character that was like a short little thief guy, and he likes reading, so he just stole all the books. Every single book that I could find, I took and hoarded all of them because he fucking loves reading.
That's a great.
And he was I like reading, and so like we kind of like pretended to play that character and like said like the dialogue choices that we thought that this person would do. It was just like this creepy little like. It was like he probably was best friends with like the in Oblivion the adoring fan outside the arena.
Oh yeah, apparently that guy's in Starfield.
Good
is what it looks like.
I mean, Cicero kind of had his vibe, which I think was on purpose.
But I do think that's important, is being able to play it your way, have it your way. Burger King, where you can do whatever you want with it, and Skyrim is good for that.
Skyrim
it does take a little bit pretending yourself, like you have to set your own rules basically while you're doing it. But
sure, it is a really good game to immerse yourself in. I recently recommended it to my mom's 60-something-year-old friend who just got a PS5, and she was looking for games to play that weren't, as she said, shoot 'em up games.
I don't want to play these shoot 'em up games.
I was trying to figure out what she liked, and I said, well, if you're looking for something that really lets you explore and get into a bunch of different kind of storylines and follow your own path, Skyrim is hours and hours of just, mindless entertainment, just because you can do whatever in there. You can go just live in a house if you want to, or you can go out and steal all the books. But the other one I recommended was Hogwarts, because it had a more kind of that RPG, like a little bit more, someone who needed maybe a little more introduction. Right.
What about rolling? I do want to. So that kind of fits our like can be anything, do anything, sort of category, right? This is like you kind of do whatever. Like there's a story, but you kind of do whatever you want with it. Like there's a lot of crafting games that are a similar way, where they have like stories, but you don't have to do any of this stuff. You could just kind of build a house and go live in the house and do whatever you want, What about rolling dice? Is there anything that really that you think would really satisfy that rolling dice? I have one that's not BG3. which is I've talked about before, Disco Elysium.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't played that one yet, but I need to.
So Disco Elysium is very much like an RPG in the truest sense. Like it's a role-playing game, but everything is based off of oh, thank God. Allison is in the chat. Allison, you could jump into the Discord if you want. It won't mess anything up.
Join us.
Join us, Allison. But the in the truest sense of the word, like you pick things you're good at. And I mean, and the things are like wild. They're all mental like acuity things. So it might be like you have a better sense of dependency. Like you could be a very dependent person, and that makes you, and that does some stuff. You could be like you could be very close to you could be like a person who is very prone to addiction stuff, and then that has an effect on you. But all of those things equate into what your positives would be, and like if you were to roll dice, what the higher one would be. So anytime you do anything, you do skill checks, and you have to roll like a digital dice, and it tells you what your number is and how close you were to meeting the goal. So I would recommend it. It's also really good if you like story-based stuff, because it's kind of like the classic, oh my God, can't pour it straight on either. It's also the classic, you wake up with no memory of what's going on and you have to figure it out as you go. That's a classic RPG. That's a classic DM startup. Yeah. You awake with no memory. You're in a tavern. The tavern keeper says there's rats in the basement. Please just go take care of it.
That's literally how is that Dark Alliance is like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dan, I figured it out. The beer is foamy, so you can have a gnome beard, just like the can.
So it's foamy, so he can know me.
He can know me with the gnomies.
Let me
with
see.
The gnomey foamy.
Hold on. Let me.
Oh no! Oh no! Don't dip your chin in.
Oh God!
Did do it.
Oh. Amazing.
It didn't stay.
Okay, well, if I had a beer, I would have done it with you, but I don't.
You know what they say? Nothing blonde ale can stay.
That's a thing.
No, it's nothing gold can stay. Like from The Outsiders, Pony Boy.
Got it.
Stay golden, Pony.
Stay gold, Pony Boy.
I had to. Yeah, that was a high school or
Matt
junior
Dillon was
high
in
reading. So I have another game that's not BG3.
Okay.
Gloomhaven, which is the board game adaptation.
The board game. Okay.
But there's a video game version of it, which is awesome. It's really good. It's just like the board game. But it has a very D&D vibe to it.
Yeah, it does. That's very much straight on. But what about any video games that you think about that could
Gloomhaven?
Oh, that's right. There is a video.
Because there's a video game.
That's true.
And you can play it multiplayer. And
that's true. You can.
Mm-hmm.
Are you stuck into? Can you make your own like sort of characters through it, or is it still?
You have to play set characters.
Okay.
It's the board game.
Got it. Okay.
It's the same as board game.
So there was the series of so BioWare actually had a history of using the Baldur's. I think it was the Baldur's Gate engine for originally Knights of the Old Republic, and then Dragon Age, and then Mass Effect was like a very heavily modified version of that. So all of those have a history of that, which I think is kind of interesting. And I think I recall in Dragon Age, you could actually see the rolls happening if you chose to.
I think that's true. I'm not going to look it up, but I'm going to assume that is a true statement. Rough Lilo agrees. But I think that's the biggest thing
this time.
I think it's Sebastian doesn't bark at all. He's too scared of loud noises. But I think that's like the biggest thing is there are some games that started to embrace the like showing you how much you failed by That's the only reason I think that it happened, is I think that they wanted to show you like, oh, like you failed, you couldn't do this thing, you know? And it's like in Fallout, it's like, oh, I'm going to try and persuade this person. And like, oh, no, it didn't work. And you're like, well, but why? But why didn't this Fallout persuasion check pass? Like, tell me how this happened. And now in games, they're like, oh, I guess we should probably show you, yeah, here's your persuasion like score. And this is what you needed to get.
Yeah. And that's something that Baldur's Gate does a really good job is it tells you what the score is that you have to beat. Whereas instead of like you roll and it's like, well, I failed, but why did I fail? Because I used to hate that when I saw that in like Dragon's Age, and I was like, well, that's bullshit. Like, I should just be able to pass.
Just let me pass. Why won't you let me pass? God, I'm so bad.
None shall pass.
God, my paladin is so bad at rolling. Like, I really want to just get new dice in the game. That's the thing. Here's the thing that will never be satisfying for me.
Did you know that in the game you can change your dice?
Yes, I did. I only have 2 different sets right now. So I
didn't know.
Yeah, you could like, I guess at some point you'll probably be able to buy like, or like they'll release different
or like with deals if they ever do a DLC.
Yeah, like with like different skins that you can get for your dice whenever they roll. But right now I think it's only like 2 different types. But whenever in real life, whenever a dice rolls bad for me over and over again, it gets retired.
Right to jail. Right to jail.
Like it goes right to jail. Believe it or not, right to jail.
I believe it.
So I always put that in jail. Right now I'm having such a hard time because I keep rolling so bad and I can't do anything to get those dice out of there. Like I just want to roll them a bunch, get all the bad rolls out, and then be rolling good. But
you could save scum.
I could, but
it's not the same.
I've been working really hard to not go against my tenets as a paladin. I'm really trying to play it as a true like paladin. I'm not trying to like gamify it to be like doing the best. Like, oh, what's the best thing to do right now? RNG, like get in there and like get the most things out of it. I'm trying to be like, okay, what would my paladin do in this situation? Which is, again, that's a good thing about this game, is it kind of lets you think you could be anything, do anything, and like make a person and develop them. This person I've created, I'm trying to develop their character, and I'm trying to get them to be like, okay, they're an Oath of Vengeance paladin. They're very about like law and order, and like trying to, and if anyone defies the like law and order, then they just beat the shit out of them. So I've been doing that. Punch and stuff.
So I'm playing a multiplayer with several people, multiplayer right now on it, but I want to also play it single player so I can play on my own time. And I've decided I'm going to go against my natural tendencies, and I'm going to play the character as evil as I can possibly be.
Oh, I've tried multiple times in multiple games to do this, and every time I'm just like, oh, I just can't do it.
I know it's hard. It's hard. I mean, look around me. I've got Care Bears. This is hard for me, but I want to be the evil conqueror this time because I don't know.
You deserve
it's
that.
Not a normally. Yes, I've earned my evil time. This is my evil time. I want to be
what the evil are.
I want to see them bowing before me. Yes.
What class would you think you're gonna pick to as you're being as evil as inhumanly possible?
Man. Am I gonna be an evil warlord or an evil caster?
Just like rogue. It's super easy too.
I'll usually play barbar warrior fighter type characters. So I'll play a caster. I'll make an evil
warlock. Is pretty easy to do that.
Yeah, warlock.
Or warlock.
Then you get a demon patron or like an evil patron.
Then it's just easy.
Perfect. And I'll name it Dan.
And you can say that
Shaka,
you know, it's not my fault. It's because of my
I blame Dan.
And so you can have that blanket excuse for yourself in your heart.
Actually,
because that's the hardest part. Every time
what would Dan do?
Dan is technically a murder robot, so anything. It is really hard. You have to like really be ready to do the worst thing possible.
Oh, I am
and
ready.
also like that's why you should have a good save that you go through, because you're going to miss a lot of story things. Ironically enough, if you're as evil as you could possibly be, it involves just murdering a lot of people, and you don't get to see a lot of story beats because of that.
Well, I'm playing it twice, so I'm playing it with other people, and I'm doing the more regular Kari route of Barbar, super nice and helpful, yada yada. But
friendly neighborhood barbarian.
Friendly neighborhood barbarian.
What if we all played a Baldur's Gate 3 run,
Evil edition,
in which we are all like the worst possible versions of our characters?
It would be like who can kill the person first.
I keep saying to my D&D group that I would love to play a campaign as like, instead of the good guys, the bad guys. Like just run the whole campaign as trying to like.
Are you thinking of Bloodkeep, Dan?
There's Bloodkeep. Do you Kari, do you watch Dimension 20 stuff at all with D&D?
No.
There is a campaign they do that's called Escape from Bloodkeep, where it's like a reverse Lord of the Rings. They play the bad guys in Lord of the Rings. Excuse me.
But like it's like right after the ring is thrown into the fire.
Yeah.
And so like shit's hitting the fan.
But it's great. But it's also, it made me want to do that too.
But they're also not like evil.
It depends on your perspective. Look,
yeah.
The bad guy never thinks they're evil, okay? Thanos was not wrong, right?
Well, that's why if you play, and here's a DM tip for you. If you're going to play an evil person in a campaign, you can't be chaotic you can't be chaotic evil, because if you're chaotic evil, then you do like the worst thing all the time, and you have absolutely no. That's henchman. That's just like you are just a spinning blade of doom. You must be.
It gets old quick.
Yeah, you must be either lawful evil or neutral evil, because then you have to, or even chaotic neutral is also a good version of evil, where it's
everybody plays chaotic neutral.
Not everybody.
A lot of people go that route because it gives them license to just kind of be good or bad depending
I think in general people like to just play chaotic characters, so they were like, "Oh, my character's chaotic, so I'm random.
It's just me."
No,
that's so.
You just don't know your character well.
Well, but that's an excuse. But is there a perfect game for somebody who loves D&D to play? You should feel attacked, Allison, if you're chaotic neutral. Dungeons and Dragons, obviously Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, go play Dungeons and Dragons. Right now, Baldur's Gate 3 is probably the closest. I think the funniest thing is that you could just pick up small creatures and throw them, which is like, that makes so much sense to me.
You can do that in Zelda too.
You could do that in Mario, right?
You could do that in Mario.
You could do that with penguins and their children.
Oh no!
Don't listen, Allison. Don't listen.
You can. I mean, yeah, I think obviously Baldur's Gate, just because it's literally trying to be
as
D&D.
Close. Yeah, it's as close to D&D as you could get.
Well, and it's licensed. Wizards actually had to give them the thumbs up for them to do that, and they weren't going to at first, but because of how well Divinity Original Sin 2 went, they really liked the elements and the things that they put in there. So that's why they actually allowed that studio to create this game with the D&D rule sets.
Yeah, and and because it's set in Faerun and not like I don't even know what the story in Divinity Original Sin 2 is, because there's just a lot going on.
There's so much.
Yeah.
It's a little much. And like that's why I was like really pumped about this, because I was like, I love the gameplay of Divinity Original Sin 2, but I have no connection to that universe whatsoever. So like to be in Faerun is awesome. What I was going to say is another game that I just thought of that is one that you have like a ton of options on how you want to play and kind of do things and like create your character from the ground up is the Mount and Blade series.
That's true.
Which I think is actually a really good proxy as well. It's a little more technical in some aspects, like as far as like how you can deal with like how you can become a lord and you have to like do certain things with as a lord. So it's like a different version of D&D, if that makes sense. Like it's like a town management
Oh gosh, there was
version
another
of D&D.
There's
game I was watching somebody play that was like that. It's like Peasant's Life or something, where you're like you start off as a peasant in a village.
No, it's Chris, it's the one oh shoot. The one that you talked about all the time, Chris. Where you start off as like a
something,
like you start off as a blacksmith's kid and then your
yes.
father died.
Yes.
Shit.
I was watching someone play this the other day.
Yeah.
That one. What is it? Allison?
It's by Warhorse Studios.
Pulls up Steam, scrolling through games.
No, I have too many games.
Yeah, you would never be able to find
it. Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There you
because
go. Thank you.
That's a game where it's like it's an RPG in it. Yeah, it's very D&D.
It's immersive
because it is like.
And like you suck at sword fighting. Like you're starting out like in D&D, like a basic human starts with all stats at level 10. And I feel like in this you're starting all your stats at like 4. You suck at
You're just so bad.
You can't even read. Like you have to learn how to read so you can read books.
That's fun. That's funny. That's funny. I don't know how to read. I don't know how to do it. But that's interesting. Yeah, I've been told I have it. I haven't played it ever because there's so many games.
I know.
So many games to play, and this is
terrible. I just got some nightmare mode in Diablo 4. So.
Nice.
I just on the most recent season, I just got to level like 50 something and opened up the tier 3. So I think so the same as you. I did the same thing as you, Kari. So hey, we could play Diablo 4 together. We could.
I'm not that far because I.
But also,
we could play Baldur's Gate together.
We could play Baldur's Gate together.
And I have to say, if you guys haven't done multiplayer in Baldur's Gate, they do such a good job. If you're familiar with the Divinity Original Sin 2, it's so wonderful because you load up the game and your friends can jump in and out of it. Like you don't have to stop playing because one of your friends has stopped playing that's in the campaign with you. You can just move those characters over to another player in one of the screens. So somebody else can control the other characters too.
Do you know in multiplayer, either one of you, do you know, can you all be your own character, or do you have to be like one person's your own character, everybody else is
everyone can be your if you start at the beginning, you can all be your own character.
That's very cool.
Yep.
I wonder if you could I'm going to ask this question this is pure curiosity. I mean nothing by it. Can you have sex with each other? Like can you I wonder if you can romance the other characters.
You can romance the other characters. I don't know about if you can do
like if they're your friends.
Bump uglies. Oh, if they're your friends? No, because your friends
that's
no, you don't interact with your friends' characters.
See. Takes me out.
Damn, were you trying to
go play Second Life, okay? If you want that kind of
no,
go to Second Life. There you go.
No, it was more of a
goes to download Second
Life. Plenty of role playing there. That kind of.
Your friends reject you automatically, much like my love life before I met Hannah. Just kidding. Cool. No, that's fine. That's it. But
I do wish you didn't have to do the same beginning every time.
See, that's the thing
that becomes tedious starting new characters.
I just have to skip.
There was
evil question, evil answer, skip.
Well, that's what hitting the space bar is for. You just have to skip the dialogue. No, I don't want that. Is downloading Second Life right now. So I guess our answer right now is just to go play.
Just go play Baldur's Gate 3. It's great.
Go play Baldur's Gate 3. It's really good so far.
If you want something cheaper, probably Baldur's Gate 2. or 1.
Yeah, you could play either one
also,
of those.
Pillars of Eternity is actually really good like that.
Oh, I was gonna mention that Pillars of Eternity is also
great voice acting in that. Matt Mercer is one of the voice actors I know in that.
Well, I mean, all of the Critical Role people, like you could download Critical Role voice packs
for real?
Yeah, sick. Like you could have all of the voices of the actors from Critical Role be your
That's
people.
pretty sick.
That's cool.
So you could
so that one's pretty steeped in D&D. I haven't played much of the Icewind Dale stuff. I have them. The thing that bothered me when I was kind of going through some of these, because there was a Pathfinder game that came out relatively recently.
Yeah.
A lot of them are real-time combat, and I hate that.
I do love...
I don't want to... I'm not here for that.
I want to think.
I want to be able to think and choose. And like I just miss stuff. There's so much going on.
I like how in combat you can interact with the environment. Like you can dip your weapon in poison if there's a poison pool, or you can freeze water under a mob if there's the original Sin 2 also did that.
You can burn things if they're like set things
or
on.
Like if there's like an oil slick, you can burn it.
Yeah, dip your arrow in fire and have a fire arrow to shoot.
I also like the fact that they even put like the like everything is D&D based in that it has like you have your actions and your reactions and your bonus actions, and like the things in your actions and bonus actions are also the mundane things like disengage and shove. Shove is one of the most useful. As a DM, listen, if you play Dungeons and Dragons and you have never used the shove maneuver as a character, which everyone can do, like you could do it if you're just a character in D&D. You could just push people, and you know what it does?
You're giving Allison ideas now.
Yeah, you know what it does? It happens. They fall over or they get thrown away if they're tiny.
In my D&D, the first D&D campaign that we did with like our friends that like started us on that path, I got as a monk this ring that gave +1 to my unarmed strike.
Okay,
which is great. It also made it so it was magical. Great, fantastic,
perfect.
So I got that like earlier than Anyways, but the other thing is like as a bonus action, I could make it so it pushed whatever creature I was hitting like 10 feet away.
Oh God!
And so there's been multiple times. There's been
social
multiple
distancing.
Times. So we were doing the
ring of social distancing.
we were doing Descent to Avernus, and like we did like a modification of it where we had a Mad Max style like car fight, and I jumped to another car and did that to the driver and like shoved him out of the way, and I started driving that rig.
Nice.
It was one of the coolest things I've ever done.
That's amazing. Allison. Yeah, no, it's like shoving is a thing. Like you can use now. That being said, it does take it's a contested athletics check. So you got to roll dice to see if it actually happens or not. But, bully style, if you're stronger than things.
Her evil side is stronger than her good side.
Are you? Yeah, I was going to say, are you kidding me? Vanelli is the evilest person I know.
Well, he knows her as HR. She had to be good at the time, so.
Listen, I've had a lot of infractions. All right.
We know, Dan. We know.
No, wait, that was all the mandatory fund commissioner disassociates.
Oh, okay.
You play D&D even in your real life.
Yes, my real life is Dungeons and Dragons. I'm actually the mandatory fund commissioner.
And we're all playing right
now. Any other thoughts on games that people could play if they're really looking for the best D&D experience or, role-playing game experience?
I mean, right now, like everybody's saying, Baldur's Gate 3 is really at the top of the list. They've just done such a good job at it.
Really, yeah.
But if you are interested in wanting to play real tabletop kind of Dungeons and Dragons, but you can't meet with your friends in person, then what's the Beyond D&D Beyond?
D&D Beyond.
And then Roll20. I think D&D Beyond is a little better at like character creation and
100%.
But we've been using Roll20 for like the rolling the dice and seeing the maps and stuff like that. So I don't know how.
Yeah. So we my friend group that does it also uses those in combination.
My friend group is in person right now, and that hasn't happened in a very long time.
Fucking overachiever.
I mean, oh, thanks, Graphlix. Oh yeah, I know you guys can't hear it, but it has the Will Shell. Oh yeah, that happens whenever somebody says.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for following, Graphlix. I was gonna say something. I don't remember what it was. I think it was something along the lines of, my friend group that I'm running through Dungeons and Dragons right now, it just happens that they're all in the same place. I mean, I ran a campaign for 5 years, and that was digital most of the time anyway. I will say,
I kind of like it better.
It's as a DM, it's so much easier to have everything in one digital place than it is to I got to print out maps. I got to have dice. What monster are you fighting? Got to flip to these pages in my notebook that I have.
I still do that. I still like I bought all these books. I went a little crazy on Prime Day.
I still tab all my stuff. And
how many books do you have, Chris?
So on Prime Day I bought these 4.
Nice.
And then I have 2 other campaign books.
Oh boy, you could see.
So I have Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel.
Nice.
Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Keys from the Golden Vault.
Oh, that's a good one.
And Waterdeep Dragon Heist.
This
was $15.
Nice. On Prime Day. There's a couple times I have some things on D&D Beyond because you can buy digital books on D&D Beyond.
Yeah, I have some of those as well.
But I have the the standards, the Dungeon Master's Guides, Vol's Keep to Everything, Player's Handbook, Monster Manual,
Xanathars.
I have Binder Monster Manual.
Yeah, you got it. That's key. The Monster Manual is tough. I am so grateful that there are apps now to be able to look up encounters and different monsters and keep track of all that stuff. Because OG, man, writing down what a monster was going to do and all the stuff for it, especially with 5e, because there's a lot of stuff.
Also, side note, Kobold Fight Club is amazing.
Kobold Fight Club was...
Do you use Kobold Fight Club?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I mean, you think I create whatever shops, the things in random shops that my idiot adventurers go into? No,
wait, I use Kobold Fight Club for that.
I believe so.
I use it for encounters.
I usually like to do the encounters myself, just because.
Vinny, we got Dan on D&D topic. Of course, he's going to go for 2 hours. He could easily go for 4 hours on D&D.
I forgot we're recording a podcast.
We're just talking about D&D.
We could just talk about D&D forever, but we're not gonna because those are our recommendations. The final thoughts are go play Baldur's Gate 3. It is definitely worth it. They polished the crap out of this game to really make sure that it worked the right way.
To the point that other studios are like, yeah, don't expect this from everyone all the time.
Yeah. They're like, hey, we're not gonna do that.
Which is ridiculous.
So that's it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to end the podcast. Before we do that, we're going to do some shout outs. So we're going to do some, not shout outs. We're going to do some plugging. We're going to plug some stuff. Kari, do you have any
podcast is this?
Oh, no, not that. Not that.
Oh, no.
No, that's our that's our only.
My husband just brought in my Monsters Compendium.
Ooh, look at that thing.
Yeah. And my old Monsters Manual.
Oh, look at that thing.
I know, I'm old. So cool. I'm old.
I have the oldest book I have is I have a 3.5 player's handbook.
For a non-D&D here's we have a good question in the chat. For a non-D&D player, why would they want to try Baldur's Gate?
Regardless of whether you like D&D or not, this game is amazing.
Story is really good.
There's just everything is there for a reason. The world is so detailed. like they just allow you so many different options of ways to accomplish a goal, and like every playthrough is going to be slightly different. Like it's just a monumental advance in gaming.
Like
honestly, it's worth the money too.
It's
I really do.
It's worth the money, and it is that open, like in games, in video games, there is no open-ended. Like there's no way to do anything that is
perfectly open-ended.
That's perfectly open-ended. This is about as close as I've ever seen anything being, where I'm worried about the choices I make with dialogue selection and with choices
and rolls,
I make
and failing rolls
because it literally could be the end of my character, or it could ruin something I've been trying to do this whole time. So if you're into chaos and like the reality of like choices I make could have bad consequences, it's really good at making that happen. So that's why, because it's just good. It's just good. And it's pretty, you know. Like I like playing pretty games. I don't know if anybody else, but like it's pretty, and it's not like pretty in a way that makes it overly.
I don't always need it, but I appreciate it when it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Barney, it's similar to, or graphics. He's also known as Barney. It's similar to Divinity Original Sin 2. So if you played that one,
it's literally that in Faerun.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say it looks a little intimidating going in. It feels a little overwhelming because it looks like there's a bunch of buttons, because there's a lot of options.
There are a bunch,
but it does because the combat style is turn-based. It really gives you a chance to kind of sit there and make decisions and understand what's going on. Was there a timer on it though? I can't remember.
No,
if there was a turn timer.
No, you can take your time. Just choose what you want.
And like the more you
and
play,
you can take
the more
it out
you
of
realize,
turn-based
like,
mode too.
Why?
If I'm a Witcher, Fable, Dragon Age player. Oh, it's Dragon Age. It's Dragon Age. It's Dragon Age on steroids. So that's easy.
It's Dragon Age with an even better story.
And you can play up to 4 people.
In fact, whenever I was playing it, and this is a testament to Dragon Age Origins in Origins specifically, which is I was playing it and I was getting flashbacks to that, because that game did very similar things with the story and with the way that dialogue and story progression was handled. So if you like Dragon Age Origins, you will love this game.
Dragon Age Origins was such a good game too.
It was.
I really enjoyed that one.
Origins 2 was great. Origins 3 was fine.
I didn't play the third one.
I played about halfway through and I was like, this is the fun.
Is 3 Inquisition?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but
Inquisition wanted to be The Witcher and it didn't
it just didn't end up being that way. So you're welcome, Graphlix. Cleft Depth, thank you for following. Lilo's so excited about all the people following us.
Sorry.
Like, listen, no, don't apologize. She's just being a dog. She sees things.
Dog
squirrels
friends here.
Listen, there's squirrels friends outside. We gotta get those squirrels, man.
She's wanting you to know.
Listen, there's bunnies
protecting
outside
the house.
There's bunnies outside our house, and Sebastian wants to eat those so bad. He ate a frog.
Same.
Or he like put a frog in his mouth.
A frog or a toad?
It was a toad, like about a month ago, and that was an experience
foamy?
for Hannah.
Did he get all foamy?
Oh yeah, it was gross. Hannah was freaking out. I was the calmest one here.
Oh, so I have a camera out front that's like in our front window so I can see out.
Uh-huh.
It was these 2 wiener dogs or dachshunds, and she is like obsessed with these dogs. Yeah. I don't know if she hates them or loves them.
It's both. She's so curious.
but she loses her mind about them every time she sees them.
Okay, anyways. we got to end the podcast.
So we can play Baldur's Gate.
So we can play Baldur's Gate 3. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna plug stuff. Kari, do you have anything you want to plug?
We'll be streaming tomorrow. It's either crafts or games. I don't know which one it's going to be yet, but you can find me here at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. y'all's time.
All right. That's right, because she's in Central Time.
So slash Pepita, Pippita.
Pippita. Chris, anything you want to plug?
I just want to let everyone know that they're Knuff.
Hey, you are Knuff. You know, big hearts. As Hannah said to me as we left the theater, I
want one of those sweatshirts so bad.
She's going to. She was like, "Do you want me to buy you I am Knuff sweatshirt?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. I do." Because she was just like, "Dan, don't worry. It's not Hannah and Dan. It's I'm Hannah and I'm Dan." I was like, "Oh, thank you."
We always call you Dana.
Dana
is what we call us. But the also, I can't hear that Billie Eilish song without crying now, because that's just the person I am.
No.
I know, it's adorable. I was a mess. The second half of that movie, like, not even the second half. The bench scene, immediate tears. Like, I was just crying the whole time.
I haven't seen the Barbie movie.
Oh my God, go see the Barbie movie.
I saw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, because that one is more.
We need to end this fucking podcast.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Here's the things we're gonna plug right now. We're gonna plug the podcast. Go to twitch.tv/the Game Brew. Unless you're already there, well, that's great. If you're listening to the podcast version, go there. Every other Sunday, we usually do a podcast, either of the Game View. We are starting our now rankings podcast, where we're gonna our S tiers podcast, where we start to rank things as a group, and the regular Game Brew stuff. You can also listen to the podcast in audio form if you want to go to all the old episodes and listen to those if you haven't listened to them. That's just the Game Brew, all one word, the space Game Brew, all one word, podcast. If you look that up on your favorite podcasting medium, you would be able to find it there. You can also go to thegamebrew.com. If you have any questions for us, you can send us emails to thegamebrew@gmail.com. You can go to our Discord at bit.ly/discobrew, DISCOBREW. And other than that, you can always ask us questions in the chat here, if that's there. But other than that, that's it. But thank you for being here. Thank you for following. Go play Baldur's Gate 3. And we're going to end the podcast portion of tonight's podcast by saying what we say when we say the end of the podcast every time, which is good night.
Right?
Good night, everybody.